Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at U.S.A, John Sneisen, and let's talk about jobs, because as we've gone into before, there are really shady ways to hide job numbers. In the United States, they've capitalized on this by using the labor force participation rate, for example, where while it appears like there's a lot of job growth, well, under the thin veil, you find that it's not actually the case. They just stop considering people unemployed after a certain amount of time without finding a job. There are really shady things at play here, and it always benefits the establishment. Obama did it. Trump is doing it now. Bush did it before. Clinton did it before, using the manipulated numbers to make it appear as though job growth was a real thing. And of course, this goes for other things as well, like as much as inflation, as far as inflation goes, where they're like, well, we're raising the minimum wage, for example. Well, yeah, but not in collaboration with, for example, the inflation rate, the purchasing power of the dollar, which is constantly going down. It's constantly, people are making less and less. People are getting taxed more and more. The government is spending more and more. It is just a recipe for disaster. And I want to kind of go into with John this article because, first of all, we know that Breitbart is angled towards, pro-Trump. It goes without saying. It's not a surprise to anyone. We here at WAM, we're completely non-biased in the sense that we don't believe in government. We don't believe in coercion. We don't believe in the Pepsi and Coke of right or left. It's all part of the same cancer. It's all a form of collectivism on the scale of statism, all a big circular pendulum. And even if you cut government 95%, it still grows. So we believe in free markets and everything like that. Anyway, the populist movement is very confused. It's a cross between leftism and the right, and it's just another example of confusion of statism and whatever benefits people personally they support, regardless of how it affects things long term, regardless of how economics works, regardless of how anything works. Anyway, let's go into this article from Breitbart, which says jobs growth explodes higher, adding 312,000 jobs in December, far more than expected. And it just says job creation boomed in December. U.S. economy added 312,000 jobs in December, and the unemployment rate rose to 3.9% according to the data released Friday. Economists had expected non-farm payrolls to rise by 176,000 and the employment to hold steady at 3.7%. The previous month was revised as well. November initially reported at a lower than expected 155,000 jobs gain, was revised up to 176,000. October's gain went from 274,000 to 237,000. That adds up to a net gain of 58,000 from the previous tallies. The labor market has been one of the bulwarks of the economy, remaining strong even while financial markets have gone wobbly. And let's look at this Zero Hedge article, which contradicts that completely, which says labor market alert. Construction industry layoffs surge most on record. And as this article goes into, while nowhere near alarming levels, this morning's initial jobless claims confirm that the government in the labor market may be peaking, contrary to what ADP reported earlier, with initial jobless claims jumping by 10,000 from 221K to 231K, the highest print since November 2018, as a trough and potential reversal appears to be forming in the series. And you can see the chart here of the initial jobless claims. But while the initial claims report indicated some modest slowdown in the economy, if nothing near the recent plunge observed by both the Richmond and Dallas Feds, a far more ominous data point was revealed earlier this morning when the latest Challenger jobs report found that 7 of 28 industries tracked by Challenger had 3K or more layoffs in December, the most since April 2015, which, according to Reuters' Jeff Hall, was just the 4th time since the end of the Great Recession which there were 7 or more industries with that many layoffs each. Also, according to Challenger, the December 2018 layoff total of 43,884 was nearly 29% higher than last year's and the highest total since 2015. Additionally, in 2018, 538,659 job cuts were announced, 28.6% higher than the 418,770 announced in 2017. This is the highest annual total since 598,510 cuts were recorded in 2015, and the second highest total since 2011, when 606,082 cuts were announced. And I just also want to mention the Wall Street Journal article, which says strong jobs report puts rate increases back in play. Analysts remain divided on the trajectory of monetary policy this year. Bond yields and stocks jumped in tandem as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell spoke Friday, pointing to continued disagreement among the investors about the likely course of the monetary policy. And it goes into a few of those things. You could look at the article for yourself. It's asking me to pay for the article to read it. And if I pay for it, you guys still won't be able to see it. Anyway, point is, there's a lot of mixed reactions here. And this is my favorite that I see here from the Washington Examiner, which is titled, Larry Kudlow issues guarantee after jobs blowout. There is no recession in sight. Where have we heard that before? I think we saw that coming from, I don't know, Ben Bernanke, Paul Krugman in the past. We saw that from Janet Yellen, who recently changed her mind to, we will see an economic crash in the near future. And as this quote says here, I know this has been a gloomy period. I know people are concerned about the stock market. Okay, corrections come and go. Nobody particularly likes it, but there's no recession in sight, Kudlow said in an appearance on Bloomberg after the release of the December jobs report. This is the kind of glassy-eyed brainwashing and indoctrination of the Keynesian school of economics and this insanity of centralization, manipulation, and up to the moon without any interruptions. It's absolutely absurd. And look, folks, I know a lot of the people that watch us support Trump. Fine, you do whatever you want. I'm not attacking you as an individual, but you have to, regardless of your viewpoint, if you have any self-respect for your ideology or your viewpoint, you have to challenge your viewpoint. It doesn't matter if it goes against what you believe. You must challenge it. You must critique it. You must always look for ways to prove yourself wrong, or else you don't learn anything. You simply regurgitate and you're indoctrinated and you are being brainwashed. And have some self-respect. Do not be brainwashed. Do your own research and break free from the talking points of the right media, the left media. It doesn't matter. They're all talking points. Do your own research and rule yourself and rule your own mind. Anyway, John, what do you think about this, all this job stuff? Breitbart saying that jobs growth is great. Zero Hedge warning that there's a huge problem on the rise. Larry Kudlow saying there's no recession in sight. What do you think?
Well, I guess it's 50-50 where it's going to go, isn't it? No, it's just completely crazy what's going on in the United States, and with the markets just fluctuating forth and back, and the volatility being about the same height as February. We're looking at a debt crisis here. That's the number one thing that has been fueling this massive growth in the United States and everywhere else in the world, of course. When it comes to, of course, you're talking about the manipulation of employment records to make it look nicer, a lot better than it is. We got to mention also all the part-time workers that are counted 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and even 4 times some of them into the system in order to keep it make it look a lot better than it is. And of course, after 60 days, you just are not unemployed anymore, according to the academics out there. And then you look at I have the U.S. debt clock up here, and it has a lot of data that could tell us that we have it's not as nice as it sounds, and that's great as they want everything to be. Because
just for the love of God, John, don't mention too many things from that debt clock, because oh my God, it's so hard to edit around that gigantic clock of a million numbers. But go ahead.
You're gonna get it, Josh.
Oh man.
No, I gotta mention the most important points here. But when you look at, they're all actually in the same page, so you're not gonna be too confused, anyways. But when you take a look at different type of workers, for example, 23.6 million people are employed by the government. That's a lot of people that are not producing anything, that are just stealing taxation from people. And then you have about 37.55 million people that are on food stamps, that are definitely getting money from the government in order to survive. They actually, some of them have jobs at Walmart and other low-paying jobs that they paid them just a low wage so they could actually use the food stamps to subsidize to subsidize them working there. And then you have 168.7 million Americans actually receive some kind of subsidy from the government, some kind of money from the government. That's really insane. Well, they should, if they're paying taxes, they should get all their money back, in my point of view. And then,
but if they're they don't want to. They shouldn't be taking money from like rich people, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently said that she wants 70% for her Green New Deal. Talk about commie BS.
Well, hey, welcome to France. There they got 90, so it's at least she's not that bad, Josh. We should go for it.
God.
No, anyways, but when you take a look at the most important number here is the actual median income. The median income since 2000 has only gone up $2,196. That is not nothing at all. And when you look at it, went from 30,420 up to 32,614. That is nothing, Josh. Think about the inflation and the 3 times more money in circulation.
Wait,
yeah,
John, are you saying that the government is fudging numbers?
No, I'm not saying that. The government wouldn't do anything like that, Josh. The government loves us and they would tell us the truth no matter what. Of course, this is complete fudging, and the inflation rate is complete fudging. Go to Shadow Stats and John Williams, where he actually uses the old ways of calculating things before they started to manipulate numbers to make it look better for, to get that GDP growth that's so important in order to not have, a deflation. Because if you get deflation, that's the panic of the debt holders, which is, the government and everybody else in the United States. You have $71 trillion in debt in the United States on top of the soon 22 trillion that the United States government has. They are in huge panic mode. And then, of course, you had Donald Trump just recently. I just got to laugh about this one. He just apparently has said that he's willing to have the government closed for months till years if need be.
Oh, God, I hope.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, so we talked about the government shutdown before, and we correctly predicted it happening last December before it kicked off. And, in the past, government shutdowns have been largely, they're paying more money to pay federal employees to guard public parks, like almost like the entire state of Wyoming, or Nevada, which is almost all government. Where I am right now, it's like almost the entire state is government. It's ridiculous. It's really important to point out that the government shutdowns aren't real, actual government shutdowns, because if you're still being taxed, it's not shut down. However, I am happy to see that the EPA ran out of money, and all these, branches of the government are actually running out of money. And I am really pleased with the idea of it being shut down for several years, because let's look at these unemployment numbers. Let's say that we see unemployment skyrocket, and it's a good thing. And by a good thing, I mean it's all government employees getting losing their jobs, because let's face it, they're stealing our money to do inefficient work and then pay off the interest on the debt and do bomb countries overseas. And let's focus on this. I mean, it's not all Trump's fault, because Trump is a president. And since when do presidents have power over all of this kind of stuff? This is what they call the deep state. But the deep state isn't Obama holdovers. It's the people behind the curtains.
It's the government workers.
The manipulators, the bankers, all these people that work behind the curtains to completely manipulate what happens in society, to push people into debt subservience and to be able to control people more. Regardless of the president, it doesn't really change that fact. It's just a slow incremental frog boil, and people are apathetic on whatever team that they're playing on or rooting for, their cheerleaders for. They're apathetic and complacent while it's all happening, because they just go back and forth from Democrat to Republican, and they've been doing it forever. They just get smarter at fooling people at this point.
Yeah, and everything has been chugging along so greatly, Josh, because, yeah, no, everything is fine here. Kudlow and Trump said, oh, the market crash was a glitch. It's just hilarious to listen to the panic that's in saying something like that. And when you look at, you were talking about the Zero Hedge article, you're looking at the actually highest amount of construction workers laid off since 2007, February 2007. Well, that's when the real estate crisis started to unwind. So you're kind of seeing it's the same trend. Which
Yeah, the demand is dropping out dramatically in the real estate markets around the country right now.
Yeah, demand for debt, because debt is going up and it's becoming more expensive. So that is what's slowing everything down. Nobody is able to afford anymore, and that's why they're worried about raising interest rate. But they need to raise it at least to 4% to even try to get it down to zero again. In a panic, they might have to go to negative. They are in so much trouble with all this debt in the United States. There's nowhere back to be able to come back to anything sustainable after this. The government is done. The monetary system is game over, and the only way out is just to keep on printing. Keep on. Fudging the system for as long as you can, until people just said F you, I had enough of you and your lies, and then they topple the government, which I hope will happen very, very soon, because something has to happen with this massive government, stealing everything from everybody. And if we don't stand up and say that we want to take our own rights back, we want to be individuals with our own rights instead of having a government controlling us, we are going to be eternal slaves under some kind of communist regime or a fascist regime taking over.
Absolutely. One flavor of collectivism or another. And we have to remember that regardless of, people saying this for years, oh, the economy is going to crash. Well, they've been right all those years. The longer it's propped up, the worse it's going to be when it comes down. And the fact that it's been propped up so long is unthinkable. It's insane. But, I mean, they've gotten really good at centralizing things. But the more they do it, the worse it's going to be. So, folks, we're propping up a dead horse that's getting bloated and heavier, and eventually it's just going to crush us all underneath, even more so. We want it to crash sooner than later. And we have to remember that this cartel, this organized crime cartel we call government and banks, we can't be complacent to it anymore, because it is completely destroying our futures, our children's futures, and it doesn't matter what team you're playing on, whether it's left or right, it's all going to affect all of us, regardless of who is in charge, quote unquote, as if we can put people in power to force our ideas on the minority, the 51% ruling the 49%, collectivism, statism, democracy, this idea that we have a right over other people, which we do not. We have a right over ourselves, and we must be responsible with those rights, and we must rule ourselves and decentralize, and not think that our idea is so good that it deserves force of guns, the same guns that invade countries around the world, enslave everyone in debt subservience to that order. Those same guns need to force our ideas, because we know so much more than everyone else, and we know that we should enforce this tax, this regulation, this legislation, this idea on everyone. It's absurd.
Yeah, well, Josh, I think we're getting close to the end there. I think I just want to come up with the bottom line right now. And the bottom line is that we've been in a greater depression since 2008. They printed just a whole bunch of money in order to keep the system afloat. And they haven't really gotten very, very much elsewhere than some more valuation. But it's not even close to as much money as that has been printed. So that just tells us that we've been in a depression since, that we entered in 2008. And we haven't even exited out of it. And we're hitting another road bump because we just papered over it. We were not willing to deal with the actual underlying economic problems with a failing monetary system. So we just print more. We just keep on printing more until we're in a depression that's beyond belief, when the actual real depression will hit us. But we're just in so much problems with all this debt, with all this fake numbers and fake news out there that is coming out in order to propagandize the population, in order to believe that the government got everything under control. Meanwhile, they had literally destroyed the free market.
They were creating the problem in the first place.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and okay, so the yield curve is inverting. The banks are bankrupt. The stock market is overvalued based on investor speculation rather than fundamental value. It's all fake. It's all propped up. The Federal Reserve is pumping money into it to keep it propped up. There's share buybacks. We've gone over all this before. The unemployment numbers are completely fudged. Folks, when will we learn? It comes down to you as individuals. You defending yourself, protecting your freedoms. It's your responsibility, not anyone else's, to protect you. You must rule yourself. You must be independent, self-sustainable, financially responsible, food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things with the toughest guy on the block. Gold and silver as wealth insurance, protecting your purchasing power. This isn't investment advice, it's our opinion, but nonetheless, look at history. Protecting your purchasing power with scarcity, application use, and demand, that which is a product of subjective value, is incredibly important. And you as an individual need to prepare yourself. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. And of course, cryptocurrencies and blockchain infrastructure that's truly decentralized and has fundamental value and a future, very important. Also look at that, diversify, make sure that you have ways to protect yourself, folks, because this isn't going to be pretty, but nonetheless, we are moving in a good direction. There is reason to be optimistic. There's more solutions than problems, but we need to understand the problems before we act and solve these problems for ourselves.
100%.
Because again, it's not going to come from government. It won't come from banks. The government can't give you freedom, folks. They can only take it away. Only take 100%. It away.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's it, Josh.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
there's nothing more to say here. There's just don't trust the government. Don't believe in all these fake numbers. Actually, go and take a look around you in the economy, and then you'll see how the real economy is actually doing. And it's not as good as the government is telling us.
No, not at all. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us again, John. We'll be back with Eddie with much more here at WHAM. There's so much coming up in the near future, and we're going to be traveling all over the place in Miami for the North American Bitcoin Conference. We're going to be in Acapulco for Anarchapulco, and oh man, there's so many more things coming up right away. So stay tuned for that, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. Like what you see here at WHAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored on YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. Also, check out our Bitcoin address below as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also check us out at steemit.com. We're at Josh Sigurdson. It's a future of social media where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency. Steem, that is. So make sure to check us out there. Make sure to join us at Anarchapulco 2019 with people like Ron Paul, G. Edward Griffin, of course, Jeff Berwick, Vid Jedlicka. So many incredible speakers are going to be speaking. It's just a massively growing event. It is something you have to see to believe. So make sure to check it out below and save money on your tickets by using promo code WHAM, that's WAM, and I hope to see you there. Also, check out our newsletter as we are getting demonetized and censored and all that. We don't know what comes next, so we have an email, worldalternativemedia@gmail.com. Send us an email with subject line YES, YES, and we will include you in the newsletter where we will continuously keep you updated. So until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.